Hello, my name's Amrita Sen Mukherjee and I'm a portfolio GP and a wellbeing coach.
Hello, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm Dr. Sarah Golding, and I'm also a portfolio GP and coach, and we're both very passionate about well-being. So we're really happy to be here for our summer well-being series. And today's first episode is all about fatigue.
So, the reason we wanted to put on these series of vlogs for you is because there are so many of my clients who are coming forward who are eager to have coaching, but unfortunately some people find this is a bit out of their realms at the moment with the current climate and with all of the difficulties that they're facing. So we just wanted to put out some short videos for you in the hope that they support you and help you at this time.
Absolutely. And our aim is we're going to do this as a series of 5, covering lots of different areas of well-being. And we'd be really happy to have your feedback about other topics that you'd like in the future. So do get in touch. So, fatigue, why are we talking about it? Well, partly it's this time of the pandemic, and probably it doesn't need loads of explanation, but there's so much going on right now, isn't there? There are changes that are happening all of the time. We're having to try and look after ourselves, looking after our family. There are financial worries for lots of us. And it feels like every day we're getting new information that we're having to process and risk assess, and being on alert all the time, really.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. And I think just in the last 24 hours, there's been a sudden change in information that's been put out there. And there's been a lot of our Muslim friends and family and colleagues who were really preparing for their Eid celebrations this weekend. And then unfortunately, because of the announcements that have been put out, they've had to change their plans. And I think that's just also driving into this sense of fatigue and overwhelm, because people are almost reaching this crescendo with excitement and enjoyment because they can look forward to small pockets of celebration. But then unfortunately, because of the situation that we're living in, we don't have the opportunity to look past maybe 24 hours or 48 hours, because we just don't know what's going to be happening, and there's such unpredictability with the situation that we're living in at the moment. And I think that's causing a whole sense of fatigue and overwhelm, because we're just on this constant carousel of emotional ups and downs, peaks and troughs, and that is causing so much fatigue at the moment that we just don't know which way to look around.
Absolutely. And I think you've made a really good point there. We kind of, in the early stages of lockdown, I think we all we were all tired because we were having to make lots of changes very, very quickly. It was taking a lot of brain power and a lot of worry. Am I going to be okay? How's my mum going to be? Trying to, I think that risk assessment, who is going to be safe and what might happen. And then we kind of adapted to this weird new normal. And then as that changed, how do we feel about that release, the sort of, and a lot of people felt a lot of anxiety, which is very tiring because you're having to sort of look out and make these adjustments to life, which really doesn't feel normal. And even as you say, these little pockets of excitement, trying to work out how you can do that and be okay and not cause problems for other people. I think you're constantly on that state of alertness, back to the caveman days. And, that's that fight or flight or freeze instinct, which we're having to have right now. And we're on shifting sands, not trying to use too many analogies, but it's very, very draining. And then people aren't sleeping well, very understandably, because they haven't got their normal routine. There's so much going on in our brains all the time, and it's just not our normal pattern, that a lot of people aren't sleeping properly at the moment. And I'm certainly coming across that with my clients and friends and family and myself. Um,
Yes.
so there are lots of reasons for us to feel this way. And that's where we're at right now. And probably by the time we move on to our next series, things will have changed again. And I guess what Amy and I want to talk about is, okay, where are we at, and how do we then recognise what these emotions are? Don't know if you want to talk a bit more about that side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's really important to acknowledge the emotions that we're going through at the moment and acknowledge the fact that we are having this whole spectrum of emotions. And they aren't just binary, they aren't just positive or negative, and they aren't just good or bad. There's this whole spectrum of, oh, okay, I feel a bit good today and a bit bad, or knowing that there's this juxtaposition where you can feel both good and bad at the same time. And that's okay. And it's okay to feel upset about this. It's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel concerned about what might be going on, what's happening, how we're making the decisions that we're making, and how can we continue in this same vein for the long haul, or for whatever period of time that we're going to be doing this for, because that's unknown too. And I think it's just about, number one, acknowledging what's happening to you in your current state. And by doing that, we actually gain control. We gain control of what's happening to us. And you mentioned, Sarah, a really important point about how we get this flight or fright response, where the adrenaline surges, the cortisol surges, and the stress response gets up. And that can really impact on our sleep and our mood, irritability, all the kind of things that don't make us feel so good in our life, if those aspects of our being are not optimized. And actually, if we start to acknowledge our emotions and what happens behind those factors, we start to gain control, because we can control our emotions, we can control our response to things, and we can control the way we react to the environment around us. And so I think by becoming more aware, by having more awareness of our response to the current situation, we can start to have more control over our own being, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely get that. And I love that idea that, there are lots of things that we aren't in control of right now. And it seems to be a never ending list or a shifting list. And that actually the power is in, where do we have the control, and make sure that you're using that. And I think for me, there's a real power in acknowledging that you're not alone in this.
Yes.
We're all going through this, and there are all sorts of different emotions. There's a lot of guilt and shame. I'm okay. I feel guilty about that. And it's okay to, whatever you are feeling, it's okay that you're feeling that. And
Yeah.
it's recognizing that emotion and then going, okay, what can I do with that? And I think it would be useful to talk about some things that we can do, once you've recognized you've got that emotion, whatever it is. And some of it is getting it out of your head, isn't it? It's sharing that with somebody in your friend, your family, journaling, focusing on what are the positives, because there will be some positives. The gratitudes, that is a really good practice, and there's some really good evidence around gratitudes. I'm sure you know about that, Amy, then with all of your study in positive psychology. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, so there's been huge evidence to show that actually when we partake in gratitude, when we show that we're or show the gratitude about something, that doesn't make any sense. When we show that we're grateful about things in our lives, whether it's be something so small as drinking a hot cup of tea or lying in a soft bed, it can be something as small as that, or something as huge as now meeting friends and family in gardens, or things that we weren't able to do 4 months ago. So actively acknowledging those things that we're grateful for can really change the neuroplasticity of our mind. So what happens is that we become more attuned to things in our environment that we're grateful for. So this activates a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. So it's almost as if you think about when you're learning how to drive, and all of a sudden you notice all the learner drivers on the road, or if suddenly you paint your walls in your room yellow, and then suddenly all you see is yellow flowers in the garden. It's because that part of your brain becomes accustomed to noticing things. So when you become more grateful, you start to notice all the things in your life that you're grateful for. And then by doing that, you become more positive, you spread more positivity, and you start to develop what we call more pro-social behaviors. So that doesn't just help you in your environment, that helps everybody else around you as well. So you're essentially breeding positivity, and you're spreading it in your environment, and that actually can have huge benefits, not just for you, because it's called reverse altruism, but it has huge benefits from other people as well, because kindness makes the world go round. People being kind to you makes you feel good. When you're compassionate towards others, it makes others feel as if they're being cared for, and it makes others feel loved. And we all love to feel loved. We're social beings. That's why we crave social connection. So gratitude can have huge impacts, just by creating a different type of mindset, by having a positive type of mindset. So it's really interesting when you read more about it. If anyone's interested, we can always add the links on to the end of the talks that we're doing. But I think there are so many different solutions out there, Sarah, and we could spend the next 5 minutes talking about what we want, what we could suppose would be good opportunities for people. But I think what would be helpful is if people actually think about what helps them.
Yeah.
What is it that's helped you in a difficult time to get through a really tricky situation? Because when you think about your own strengths and your own personal being, your own personalities and your interests, actually, that can be hugely beneficial to uncovering where your interests lie and where your own solutions lie. And that's essentially something called optimal support matching. So figuring out what's unique to you, what's beneficial to you, using your own strengths and using your own ideas and creativity can be hugely beneficial, rather than having a didactic approach of us saying, oh, this is great for you, that's great for you. So I think my recommendation would be to spend 2 or 3 minutes just looking inside yourself, reflecting on yourself and thinking, okay, when I had this difficult time, what was it that got me through? And actively using that approach to support you in moving forwards, I think would be really helpful.
I think that's a great piece of advice. And I'm just aware that we're coming to an end now, but I think our overall message is that this whole series is about saying well-being is so important, and that self-care is not selfish. And please give yourself permission to just spend a little bit of time, maybe after listening to this or watching this, to have a think about what can you do today or in the coming days, that's just going to help that sense of well-being. Our next one that we're going to be dealing with is overwhelm. So I think that's a great one to head on to next. So please do join us next time. And if you found it helpful, please please share, please comment, please get in touch with us. And we're really looking forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us. And as Sarah said, do share away, do like, do tag. And if there's any questions that you have following this, let us know and we'll hopefully help you as best as we can. Take care.
All right.